Okay, so we just got out of Midway, the premiere showing in Vegas, and here is my review. First of all, let's go into historical accuracy. The movie was definitely very historically accurate. I only spotted 1 point of inaccuracy, but I don't even remember what it actually was, so I couldn't repeat it back to you. But I do know there was a small bit near the end of the movie where, I don't know, there's some sequence of the battle that I know didn't happen in that order. Also, the part where the Admiral Yamato, I can't remember, he says, "I fear we've awakened a sleeping giant and filled it with terrible resolve." That is accurate. However, he says it in the movie to like some helper or housekeeper or something. And if I recall, he said it in council historically. But anyway, for the most part, the movie was extremely historically accurate as far as I'm aware. I'm no historian, so I could be wrong on this, but the parts that I'm aware of, they totally nailed. Now, as for the film itself, how well was it made? Well, I mean, the film wasn't bad. There's a couple good things about it. One is they stayed away from the whole social justice bit. There was no rewriting of history to make super strong female characters that are more just men with boobs. There was no weak men that, women are dominating. None of that political garbage that's made its way into most movies nowadays. They actually stayed on point as far as keeping the characters true to who they were, as far as I know. And I didn't detect even a hint of wokeness in this movie, and that was really, really good that they did that. I don't know if they intended to do that or if it was just a byproduct of them trying to make a period movie. I don't know, but whatever the reasoning, I'm glad they did it, and that was great. Now, there were some things wrong with the movie. First of all, you've probably already read online that they put in Pearl Harbor, they put in the battle at the Marshall Islands and the Doolittle raid, and then eventually they put in Midway. Now, we've already seen movies about Pearl Harbor. There's quite a few of them out there. We've seen the Doolittle raid most recently, I think, in the Pearl Harbor movie with, what's his name? Ben Affleck and
Josh Hartnett.
Wasn't it Josh Hartnett?
Yes,
Hartnett? Yeah, whatever. The dude who dropped out of acting. But my wife's in the car with me. So anyway, they made the Doolittle raid on that. That was probably one of the better bits of that movie. And the thing was, they covered it all again in this movie. It seemed kind of unnecessary and sort of a waste of film when the focus of the film was supposed to be Midway. In fact, it's called Midway, so you would assume the whole film would be about it, or at least the events leading up to it. In one way, it is about the events leading up to Midway, but in a very broad sense. They talk about the previous battles, they have a lot of dialogue and sort of getting to know these characters, which they didn't do a very good job of. But anyway, so that went on for a while, probably half the movie really, before they even got to Midway. And it seemed totally unnecessary, and I'll turn my light on here. And due to limited time, it just seemed like they shouldn't have packed it in there. I mean, the Battle of Midway was already big. It's a big subject. They could have covered it all in one movie, the battle itself or the people around it. But they decided to put in all this other stuff. So I didn't like that. It kind of screwed up the pacing. It got rid of a lot of the emotional investment of the characters. Like none my daughter's waving. It got rid of a lot of the personal connection to the characters, and it seemed very rushed. Now, it wasn't a bad movie, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the movie, but it did seem rushed. It did seem unnecessary. Then we move on to the actual battle. Now, the battle itself was covered pretty well. They showed the bombing of the first three characters. They also showed, I was very appreciative, they showed all the failures of the Americans early on in the battle. And throughout the battle, there was a lot of failures. Torpedo misses. The first squadron of torpedo bombers, if I recall, was entirely shot down, completely destroyed. Second Squadron lost virtually all of them, and then one torpedo hit but didn't actually explode. There was a lot that went wrong at the beginning of the battle, even though the Americans had the jump on the Japanese. The effects were cool. Effects were really awesome. They even had a little bit, and I'm not giving spoilers because, I mean, it's history. How can it be spoilers, right? There was even a little bit where they talked about the director that had been on the island of Midway filming some other stuff, and he found himself caught right in the middle of this battle, but he comes and goes so quick. There's no time to really get invested in his character either. Like, there he is, oh, keep shooting the film, and then you never see him again. He's just gone. And that happens a lot in this movie. They have this emotional music, and they focus on these characters that you don't really care about because there's no time given to them for you to really get entrenched with. You're like feeling bad for them when they die. When they die, you're just like, oh, he died. I think the main issue with this movie was that it didn't know who to focus on for a main character. There was a lot of different characters that they focused on. They had Dennis Quaid's character of Admiral Halsey. They had that Jonas Brothers kid, I don't remember which one he is, who is the... he was like a gunner or something like that. And he was shot down in a plane. And he had a pretty cool character. He actually was pretty neat. But again, like, there was him. There was the cowboy guy. I mean, there was probably like 8 or 9 different characters that this film tried to focus on. And they didn't do it very well. There's just too much going on and too many people to care enough about any of them, really. Now, that's not to say it wasn't a good film. I mean, it was good. We enjoyed it. I really appreciated the historical accuracy in it all. But it did seem like they were trying to tell the story of the battle, which they did, and they did a great job. But what they failed to do... Sorry, a bunch of cops just went by. What they failed to do was they failed to give you an emotional investment into the film. So overall, movie was good. No wokeness, which is so rare in movies these days. I'm glad I missed The Terminator. I almost went and saw it, but I thought, it's probably just going to be a bunch of dude bashing and like chicks are strong. And sure enough, everyone I've heard from, talked to, said that's exactly what it was, and it was a weak film. So I'm glad I missed that. But Midway didn't do that. Midway stayed on point. Historically, it was almost like watching a documentary of the battle step for step. So they definitely got that right. What they got wrong was really getting you into the characters. So I think that the director did a great job of being historically correct. He did a pretty poor job of character arc, character customization, whatever you want to call it. So overall, I would give the movie... I want to give it a 6 out of 10, but I think I'll give it a 7 out of 10 because it was at least accurate. My wife gave it a 7 out of 10 as well. And I would say it's worth seeing, especially if you love history. If you don't love history, you're just going to see an entertaining film, you might not like it so much because it's not very exciting, I guess, character-driven. Not very character-driven at all. But as a historical film, yeah, not bad. Anyway, that's it. That's all I have to say about that, as Forrest Gump would say. See you guys next time.